Hello and welcome to AI Fear Factory. Today we tell the horrific story, The Possession of Emma by the demon Astaroth.
Emma had always been fascinated by the paranormal and the occult, so when she found an old Ouija board at a garage sale, she couldn't resist buying it. She invited her friends over for a seance, and they spent the evening trying to communicate with the spirits. At first, nothing happened, and they started to get bored. But then, the planchette started moving on its own, spelling out words that none of them had typed. They asked the spirit who it was, and it spelled out the name Astaroth. They thought it was all just a joke, but as the weeks went by, strange things started happening. Emma began to feel like she was being watched all the time, and she started having nightmares about a shadowy figure following her. She also started acting strange, speaking in tongues and exhibiting bizarre behavior. Her friends became worried and tried to get her to see a doctor, but Emma refused, insisting that she was fine. But then, one night, they found her in her room, convulsing and speaking in a demonic voice. They realized that Emma had become possessed by the demon Astaroth, and they knew they had to find a way to exorcise it before it was too late. They searched for answers in ancient texts and consulted with priests and other experts, but nothing seemed to work. Finally, they discovered an old ritual that had been used by a medieval order of exorcists. It involved reciting an incantation while pouring holy water on the possessed person. They gathered all the holy water they could find and performed the ritual, and to their relief, it worked. Emma woke up, feeling disoriented and confused, but the demon was gone. She couldn't remember anything that had happened while she was possessed, but her friends filled her in. They destroyed the Ouija board and vowed never to mess with the paranormal again. But as they left Emma's house, they couldn't help but wonder if there were other demons out there, waiting to possess the unwary. After Emma's exorcism, her friends noticed that she wasn't quite the same. She seemed distant and distracted, and she rarely spoke about her experience. They tried to be supportive, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few weeks after the exorcism, Emma invited them all over to her house for a movie night. They settled in with popcorn and blankets, but the mood was tense. Finally, Emma spoke up. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something that happened to me while I was possessed." Her friends listened intently as Emma described a strange vision she had during the exorcism. She saw a dark figure in the distance, beckoning her forward. She felt an overwhelming urge to follow it, and she found herself in a dark, otherworldly realm. The figure revealed itself to be Astaroth, the demon that had possessed her. It told her that it had been using her body to gather strength and that it would return, stronger than ever. "I don't know what it means," Emma said, her voice shaking. "But I think we need to be prepared. We need to find a way to protect ourselves." Her friends were skeptical, but they agreed to help her research. They scoured the internet and ancient texts, looking for any information on demons and how to fight them. They reached out to experts and even consulted with a few psychics, but they couldn't find any solid answers. As time passed, Emma became more and more convinced that Astaroth was coming back. She started having nightmares again, and she claimed to see shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her vision. Her friends tried to reassure her, but they couldn't deny that something strange was happening. Finally, they stumbled upon a piece of information that might be useful. They discovered that Astaroth was vulnerable to a specific type of salt that could be found in an ancient underground cavern. They planned a trip to the cavern, hoping to find the salt and use it to protect themselves. The journey was treacherous, but they finally arrived at the cavern. They made their way through the winding tunnels, using their flashlights to guide them. Finally, they found the salt and began to gather it. But as they worked, they heard a strange noise. It sounded like someone or something was approaching. They panicked, knowing that they were vulnerable in the cavern. They hastily grabbed the salt and made a run for the entrance. They emerged into the sunlight, panting and disoriented. They looked around, expecting to see some kind of demonic presence. But the only thing they saw was a lone figure in the distance, watching them. They couldn't be sure, but they thought it might be Astaroth. They quickly got into their car and drove away, determined to stay safe. As they looked back, they saw the figure disappear into the shadows. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew that they would always be ready for whatever came next.
Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, then please smash the like button and subscribe.